Okay, we are now broadcasting live, so I will turn the floor over to our presenter today, which is Nick Babcock, who is one of my colleagues at Michigan State University Extension. I am responsible for equine education, and Nick, on the other hand, is responsible for other livestock and vet science. So I'm sure he'll hopefully tell us a little bit more about himself in just a minute, but the floor is yours, Nick.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Taylor. I appreciate the opportunity. And as Taylor said, my name is Nick Babcock. I am the 4-H livestock and veterinary science program educator. So my main focus is our beef, sheep, and swine projects, as well as our veterinary science programming that we have through Michigan State for 4-H youth. And I hope, first of all, thanks for joining us. I don't know, we folks are from Michigan and outside of the state, and this seems like it's finally our first nice spring day from start to finish at least. And I, along with my crew, you can see my picture on there, my wife and my 3 kids, we have a small farm in Clinton County, Michigan, right about in the middle of the state. And just was weaning some lambs today, so the windows aren't open because you'd be hearing them crying like crazy right now. But we're going to dive into a little bit of goal setting today. And I think this is something that, just like there's so many things, we've got some 4-Hers and some non-4-Hers, but it's one of those things that 4-H teaches us so many things that can be applied to life. And I think that this is goal setting. And this is another opportunity that can really apply to our 4-H programming and our project areas, but really just all aspects of life. So thanks for taking some time out of your day. If you are truly eating your lunch, enjoy it. And too bad we can't share, right? So, but I'll go ahead and get started. And hopefully here as I click, there we go. And the first thing I just want to lead off with is just letting you know that, hey, everything that we do in NSU is open to everyone. So this presentation, everything that we do, is open to all. So we invite all to attend, and we're glad that you are attending and listening today from all around the country. So I'm a dad. I have lots of dad jokes. And the first thing is I'm starting out with one, but of course, here it is, right? So you're riding on a horse, full speed. There's a giraffe right beside you and a lion nipping at your heels. What do? Right? So I know hopefully you're not by yourself. Maybe you're screaming at the screen trying to tell me, right? But I'll give you a second to think about it. What are you going to do? That lion's coming up right behind you. Well, the easy answer is get off the carousel. Oh, it's a little bit harder to tell dad jokes.
Dad jokes. I'm sure everyone is cracking up, Nick. I'm certain of it.
I got a few more for you throughout today, but yes, so just make sure that you get off the carousel if you feel like that lion's going to get a hold of you. But what I really want to talk about today, though, of course, was these 3 main things. And the first is really set SMART goals. We want to talk about what is a SMART goal, how do we establish SMART goals, and then I want to talk about how we can break those barriers, right? So as we establish goals and we want to make ourselves better in different ways, how do we get through the things that might be holding us back? And then what do we do when we go from our setbacks, because we're going to experience setbacks, and how do we go from those setbacks to success? So again, we're going to talk about SMART goals, right? And we all know those. So maybe you never heard of the phrase of a SMART goal, so we'll cover that and what that means. And the first is it's an acronym, right? So I retired out of the Army before I came to Michigan State, and we loved acronyms. So this just fits right into everything about me and what I like, right? So the S in SMART is for a specific goal, okay? We're going to talk about each one of these. We're going to break these down. And then the M is for measurable. The A is for action-oriented goals. R is realistic. T is time-based. And that's really what the acronym stands for, right? And when we look at goal setting, it provides us a clear picture of what our target outcome is and how we can get to that. And maybe if we need to set smaller actions to reach those goals. So goal setting can be really important. And I think if you've never set a goal, hopefully by the end of today's talk, you're going to think about why you should set a goal and really look at doing that. And I know that some people have goal journals, right? What are you looking to accomplish? Maybe by a year, or by a month, or by a quarter. And it's really awesome when you can take a journal and write those things down, because you can go back and you can look at them. You can really see how many goals you've reached, or those things that you desired maybe at the beginning of a year or beginning of summer compared to the end of summer, what you were able to accomplish. And then really what goals are is they're that roadmap to success, right? So if we can look overall about how we want to be successful as a person in our 4-H projects, a person running a business or a farm, or within our family or community, if we want to be successful people have goals, right? So we want to establish those and we want to use that as that roadmap for success. And realize that we're going to have to adjust, right? Maybe sometimes we got to change our goals because something happens, or we've got to add to our goals because we've accomplished some of those things. So it's great because when you reach those goals, you also get to set new goals. So there's a lot of great things that can come from setting goals. And I think it's really important though, when you set them, we want to be purposeful in what we do. And again, that's where that acronym, that SMART goal, or the acronym of SMART, really will come into play. So when we look at the S and the specific, when we establish our goals, so we're going to talk about all these, then we'll look at, what makes a good goal. The specific part of our goal should be, what are you going to do, right? What is it that we want to do? Because without specific, your goals is just too vague, and then they become too hard to achieve. So we want to make sure that we have a specific goal, very deliberate with our actions, right? Without that, then we don't have this clear finish line. We don't know when we've reached it. We don't know when we've gotten to that place that we want to be. So we want to make sure that we set our goals with real numbers, and real deadlines, right? Real times that we want to get through it. We want to be really specific in what we're trying to accomplish with our goals. And then it needs to be focused again, right? It doesn't want to be this broad thing. And we're going to talk about some of those again, the next couple of slides, but it doesn't want to be this really broad thing, but we want to be narrow. We want to be specific so we can make sure that we're accomplishing that. And when we accomplish it, we can set our next goal. So we can still accomplish just as many goals as you might think. Like if you're casting a really wide net, cast a narrow net, we can be more deliberate in our actions. We want to identify resources that you need to obtain those goals, right? So maybe there's specific things that you want to accomplish that you need to make sure that you have the resources in place, because that can then become an unrealistic goal and will be a lot harder to accomplish. So the next part is the M, right? And you can see we're kind of following along on the right side of your screen there, specific. We're on the measurable part, right? So how are we going to know if we're making our progress, right? So we want to make sure that these things can be measurable in our goals. And we want to help evaluate our success, right? So by making our goals measurable, we're going to be able to evaluate that. And a good example when we look at measurable, right, is like, well, I'm going to spend 3 hours a week practicing my Western pleasure, and then 2 hours a week practicing Western horsemanship, right? So it becomes a very measurable goal. It becomes something that's very tangible that we can look at and we can say, hey, I'm making these marks. I'm making this progress towards my goal, but it's measurable, and it's not vague. It's not an open-ended. The A, right? So A is action-oriented. Now, sometimes if you've heard of a SMART goal, sometimes you'll hear this is attainable or achievable, but I really like action-oriented because it helps you understand what you need to do to reach that goal, right? And of course, this makes it more achievable, but if your goal is action-oriented, you're gonna get to be that point where you're achieving your goals. So what actions are you gonna take so you can reach your goal? And that's something, so as you plan out your goal and you look at those goals, what are you gonna do to really make it happen? And that they can be challenging, right? You want your goals to be challenging. You want to have that so you're getting to the next level, right? But they need to be obtainable, right? So saying that you want to become a pilot and you want to fly airplanes by the end of the summer, but you don't even have keys to drive a car, it's probably going to be you don't have your license to drive a car. It's going to be a little bit more challenging and really not obtainable. Maybe by the time you're 17 or 18, you can get your pilot license as opposed to being 13 and 12. So we want to make sure that they're challenging, but yet still obtainable. We want to make sure that we outline the process to achieve our goal. So this is going to take some thought, right? Where again, it goes back to writing down our goals, to seeing those, to planning out our goals. We really want to make sure that we outline it. How are we going to get there? And this is all built in, right? So a SMART goal is taking all of these things and putting them together. And I think it's really important that when we talk about action-oriented goals and as being a part of our SMART goals, we want to make sure that we're not trying to change our life in a single night, right? So it takes, we've had a whole lifetime to get where we are. So it's going to take some time to change and make those goals, because, right, maybe the goals that you're thinking about today or anything related to 4-H. Maybe that's how you can be a better person in your community. Maybe it's how you can be more healthy or more active or more supportive in your family network, right? Whatever that may look like. So maybe it's not just related to your beef project, or your horse project, or your sheep project, but realize that if you really are thinking about goals and setting goals to help take yourself to the next place, that it's going to take some time. That don't expect that change to happen in a matter of a nighttime, right? So And then the last part of the, or not the last part, but the R is from SMART goals is realistic. Okay. Is the goal doable for you? And I think that sometimes we can set goals again. I was never a 4-point student. Setting a goal for me to get a 4-point in the class, that wasn't necessarily the most doable thing, right? For me and how I was both in college and in high school. So those were things that weren't really maybe the most doable, right? So we got to make sure that they're realistic goals. And you got to be honest with yourself, right? No one knows you better than you, right? Your parents don't know you better than you. Your significant other, they don't know you better than you. You know you, and you're the best person and to know and assess you, right? So you got to be honest with yourself. Is the goal that you're thinking about really truly a realistic goal? Okay, and then does your goal align with your values, right? So sometimes we can think about goals that really don't meet with the values that we have as a person, right? And then your personal values. And then is this goal going to be a top priority for you? Or is this just one of those things that's this lofty goal and that's way out there and that you're really not going to make it a top priority? And if it is not your priority, then maybe you need to reevaluate that goal and try to, again, keeping this SMART goal focus so it does become a realistic goal and help you accomplish those things to take you to that next place. And then the last component is time-based, right? So when are you going to start? When are you going to start doing it? How are you going to go about it, right? When are you going to do your progress check-ins? We're going to talk about that, what that should look like, so you can make sure that you're really moving forward to accomplishing that. So when we look at SMART goals, what does a SMART goal sound like, right? So the first thing was just take it from a health component, right? I walk 30 minutes a day for 5 days a week, right? So you can see right there, it's very specific, it's very measurable, it's action oriented, it's realistic, right? And it's got a time to it. So it's not just, I'm going to start walking this week, right? It's finally spring, I'm going to get out there and start walking. No, like that's so broad and so vague, where if you can really set a SMART goal to help yourself get there, I'm going to walk 30 minutes a day for 5 days this week, right? So you can start to see how just simply changing the structure of those goals really makes it more achievable. It helps you check on yourself to make sure you're accomplishing those things. And again, really builds on that SMART acronym goal, right? So the next part is I will contribute 2 hours a week for the next month to volunteering in my community, right? So we've seen the call. We've seen our governor here in Michigan talking about how we can help and how we can impact our community, whether it's sewing face masks, whether you have the ability to give blood or donate your time, if you have an expertise that you can help with this COVID-19 crisis that's taking place right now, right? So you can really target how you can help that. I'm going to contribute 2 hours a week for the next month to volunteering in my community. Maybe it's helping the elderly just get some meals to their facility, or helping them so they don't have to expose them going to a grocery store, right? You can help your neighbor down the road, or maybe your neighbor next door, right? That could use some help. So you can really look at how you can have a positive impact, and it's specific, it's measurable, right? It's not just this, well, I'm going to volunteer, I'm going to make a difference somehow this month, right? One of the great ones that we hear a lot of right in my house right now is I'll apply for 4 scholarships during March, right? And now we're into April, so a little bit behind there. But, so instead, usually in my home with my kids, my oldest daughter, she's 18, getting ready to go to college, and said, her vague goal would be, yes, Dad, I'll apply for scholarships this month, right? But when we really sit back and we talk about how we can make it happen, we set that number, we set dates, we set times, and say, hey, by this point, you need to have so much, or you need to have, applied for at least $20,000 in scholarships before the end of the month, that type of thing. So you can really, again, take outside of your project or really specific to your life, and just looking at how you articulate your goals using the SMART method will really have a positive impact, and really, I think, make your goals more attainable, which will help you become more of a successful person, right? And that could even go into any businesses or any type of we got some adults online, right? Your home and your family, or your business or your work, right? How you can really take it to the next level if you just start kind of thinking about your goals and implementing that SMART goal process. Or maybe it's right, I want to show in 3 Western Pleasant shows and 2 Western Horsemanship shows this summer. Instead of just like, well, I'll do more shows because we got out of school earlier and now it's not mandatory, right? So again, just setting those goals. We're being specific. They're measurable, right? We can look back and reflect. Did we make some of these these micro checkpoints, these times as we've progressed along it, right? So are they action oriented? Are they time sensitive? And so just really focusing in on those SMART goals, and I think it really will help it take you to the next place. So that was kind of the SMART goal process, and we're going to continue to talk. So hopefully, as you reflect on your life and where you're at, because each one of us is different, right? The goals that I have for myself are different than my kids. It's different than my spouse, my wife. It's different than my coworkers at work. We all have different goals. So maybe as you think about this, and as you kind of work through your goals in your life and where you want to be, you can start using this idea of SMART goals. And write them out. Write them out. Maybe you've got an idea right now, throw it down on a piece of paper and start to build on that, and then see how we can really make those things achievable. So I want to kind of talk about breaking barriers as we move into next, but of course I'm a dad, so I've got to have my more dad jokes, right? So my question is does anybody know how much money did the Bronco have? Right. So I'll give you a second to think about it. Oh, Taylor, I see you unmuted. Do you have?
I was just saying they could throw it in the Q&A function if they thought they knew the answer. I don't know the answer to this one.
Okay. We'll give you just a second. I like humor. Sometimes it gets me through those moments. That's why I always like my dad jokes.
And just so you guys know, this is hard for us to teach without seeing and hearing and interacting with you. Okay, somebody said $1 million.
Ooh, I like
$1 billion.
it.
I think we're throwing things to the wall, see if they'll stick.
Okay.
Here.
Well, how about this? Only a buck.
Oh my, good
How
one.
much did the Bronco have? How much money? Only a buck. Okay. I tried. Yeah, it can be hard because it's definitely hopefully somebody laughed, or hopefully nobody stopped streaming, but hopefully you found some.
Your numbers have not went down. You're good.
Okay, good. Well, thanks for sticking around, right? Yeah, so it is definitely can be difficult. I'm staring at basically a little glowing light on my computer, and so if I'm going too fast, or if you have questions, please drop them in the chat. We'll talk about them. We can circle back at the end. But yeah, so thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll keep moving along. So we talked about SMART goals, right? We talked about what we want to do, how we want to establish our goals. But I think the next thing we really want to talk about is breaking the barriers, right? Because really, why are we setting goals? We're setting goals because we want to go to the next place, right? We want to make ourselves a better person. We want to be able to do more with what we have. And usually we're not there already because there's things that are holding us back. And I think that once you establish that SMART goal, you kind of go, well, now what? And I think the first thing you really need to do is sit back and look and go, well, where do I sit on this scale? So I've established my goal, what I want to do, how I want to get there. But where do I sit? Do I feel somewhat confident that I can do this? Do I feel really confident that I can do this? Or maybe it's something that's so outside of your normal, you feel hardly confident at all. And I think that's okay as well, especially if you're really trying to grow yourself as an individual and maybe taking a step into a path that you've never experienced. And maybe this is even, here in Michigan, I know that we're changing the way, with the way the rest of our school district looks for our public school kids and our private school kids. And I know in the charter schools, right? So all that stuff has changed. And maybe you need to sit back and go, barriers that I could have to getting through that. I know we spent a lot of time talking in my house about it last night at dinner, and even in today. What is school life going to look like for the rest of the year? And we kind of talked about this, right? How do we feel about how obtainable this is and what the resources that we have? So as you kind of put yourself on that spectrum of figuring out where do you sit with your goal, and it's okay to be anywhere in there, right? We can be a 0 and we can be a 10 and we can be anywhere between that. And that's okay. We just have to recognize that, because depending on where we are on that scale, there might be some things that are really holding us back, or could potentially rather hold us back from reaching that goal. Okay. So the more confident that you are that you can accomplish your goal, the more successful you're going to be. Right. So that's why it's important to understand where you are. And if your confidence is feeling low, what are some things that you can help do to build up that confidence? Right. So consider it. Where did you place yourself? And when you look at it, maybe ask yourself, well, why wasn't it lower? You know, what things do you think that you've already put in place that are going to make you be a successful towards reaching this goal, and that will help you, right? So why wasn't it lower? And then ask yourself too, what do you need to do to move it up? What do you need to do to help build your confidence before or as you're working on this SMART goal? And know what's helped you be successful in the past, right? We don't want to discredit that. You're a successful person. You've done successful things. Kind of self-reflect. What was it that helped you get there? Was it your time management? Was it the people that you were hanging out with? Was it it was such a passion for you that you loved it and you wanted to get into it? And maybe that you need to understand that those passions are what can drive us, right? And sometimes I see a little bit of it. I put on a veterinary science camp at MSU for a week, right? Every summer. And I've had youth attend, and then at the end of the week, they go, gosh, I don't want to be a vet at all. Like, that's not at all what I thought this was going to look like, right? And they just got a small window into it over a week-long time frame, but their passion wasn't where they thought it was, right? So follow your passions, let that reflect on those, and know what was it that helped you become a successful during those different moments where you looked at your goals and what it took there to be successful in the past. So some of the barriers, right, is maybe you feel embarrassed. Maybe, outside of the 4-H community, right, maybe it's just getting healthy, right? And you've never ran before, right? Or you run really goofy, sometimes we can kind of rib my son with that a little bit. He doesn't get his knees up too high, so it kind of looks like he's always shuffling. Kid works hard, but it looks like he's always shuffling everywhere, right? But sometimes that can have an impact on him when he goes out and wants to do things and be active. Maybe he feels a little bit embarrassed, right? So we look at that and we go, okay, maybe this is a barrier to reaching my goal. Maybe I've never tried this maybe I've never done Western pleasure before. And gosh, everybody else I know has done it for years and they're so awesome at it. And yet maybe I've got some things that I don't know if I could really do it. You might feel embarrassed, right? Well, maybe the first thing you do is start by working on your goal at home, right? So do it where you feel the safest, right? You can do it with a trusted friend. And I think those things will really help you when you might feel that embarrassment and kind of build that self-confidence up, right? And maybe move you along. Taylor, I see that there was a hand raised. I don't know. It keeps popping up on my screen. I don't know if you can look at that or not and let me know if there's something.
If you could type your question in the Q&A, that's a little easier for us to see, partly because I am not a total expert on Zoom. But we've had some questions along. I've been able to answer them, some of them for you. Somebody says, keeping my eye on the prize helps me stay on task and break barriers.
Yes.
I did not see who raised their hand, but if you have a question, just throw it in the Q&A and I'll tell Nick to stop talking and answer your question, darn it. No. Sorry.
Perfect. Thanks. No, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, going back to what somebody said there about keeping your eye on the prize, right? And that's where it kind of comes into like, if we can write out those goals, we have a journal, we have our goal setting journal that we can go back and we can reflect, and because I think it helps you build that confidence, right? And move that scale up when you go back and you look at yourself, right? We look at that scale and we can go, man, I have accomplished a lot. I've done a lot in 2020 already that I never thought I would have. And then you can start to build that confidence scale. Like, yeah, I can do this. I'm going to continue to implement some of the things that we're going to talk about in a few more slides, but I can do this and help build my confidence up and make me more successful in obtaining this goal. So yeah, absolutely. Keeping your eye on the prize. That's a great way to say it. I think really having that goal setting journal is really important. And I think that it's amazing when you get to the end of a period of time, whether it be summer or a show season or the calendar year, and you reflect back on, you're like, oh my gosh, I wrote these things out. And so much of it happened where I think, we can just kind of get lost. It gets lost and washed over when we don't write them down and we don't reflect on them. We kind of forget all the good things that we've done, right? All the things that we've accomplished, because sometimes it can be hard and we focus on our faults or the negatives, right? Maybe you feel like you don't have time. Gosh, I don't know if there's a whole lot of people right now. I mean, probably if you're working in the medical field, there's people that feel like they don't have time for anything, but I think a lot of us might feel like we have so much time, right? But if you feel like you don't have the time, consider just breaking your time up into smaller pieces, right? So you're looking at, how do I accomplish my SMART goal? How do I obtain to the next thing? And I think it's really about breaking your time up into smaller periods. Don't, one of the things that my kid's principal had said at his elementary school a few years back, well, how do you eat an elephant, right? And the question is, one bite at a time, right? So you don't need to accomplish everything at one sit down. You just take it at a little bit at a time until you get to where you want to be. Maybe you need to just write out your schedule, right? Write out your schedule and include time to work on your goal. So I know that can be really helpful right now for a lot of people that feel like we've kind of lost direction, right? We had times that we got up to get ready. We were at school. We got home from school. We had maybe dinner or a sports practice or riding practice, riding, whatever it was. We had these very set times. And now it's kind of just like, it's all falling apart. And I think that if you can really sit down, break down your time, write that schedule out, and include time to help do what you need to obtain those goals, will really be helpful in making you be successful for going where you'd like to be. And there's all sorts of apps out there. Gosh, I mean, I could probably do 10 slides on apps that will help you reach your goal, manage your time, and help those things out there. So if you're an app person, you like the smartphone, you like the technology, check it out, because there's definitely a lot of those things that will help build it in and make sure that you're meeting those times. Maybe you think it costs too much, right? And I know that can be a big problem or a big barrier, right? When we have our goals, especially, my kids, we do a lot of beef projects and a lot, everybody's got their calves out back right now. We've got our sheep projects, and some of that can just, getting into the show industry or getting into the show ring can be expensive, right? From the clothes that they want to wear, to the halters, to the transportation, to the entry fees, all that stuff. So what are some things that we can do? We can look at really, how can we lower costs to accomplish our goals, right? Maybe, we need to look at some sponsorships, right? That can help lower our costs. If there's community members or family members that will help sponsor you to go to certain shows in different parts of the state or different parts of the country, right? We can look at that. Maybe instead of, buying all the brand new flashy things, you look for when items are used or on sale. I think the end of the show cycle, right, for us is always kind of a sad moment, because it's the end, right? And always hopes and dreams of the next show cycle. But that's also a great time to look to buy things, because there's people that are aging out. There's people that are coming to realize that that is not for them. So then there's this flux of products that can be for sale at the end of the year. And sometimes you're not thinking about, that's when I should look at buying things, right? Because you're thinking, I'll wait until I'm ready to use it. But keep an eye out, right, for that it might be used or things that are on sale when it comes towards the end of the cycle, right, if you will. Look for free classes. You're here today, right? You're trying to learn more. You're trying to figure out how you can set goals, how you can break down your barriers, how you can be successful, right? And it's not costing you anything. Just a little bit of your time while you're eating your lunch and hanging out with us, right? So look for those free opportunities in community. Maybe your 4-H club. I should add a 4-H in there, not just your club, right? But maybe you got different clubs. Maybe it's the model train club, whatever it is that you have a passion for. Look for those opportunities to be mentored, to glean information off of people and have conversations with them that don't cost you anything, right? Where maybe somebody would go and talk or attend a class for $100. You can talk to a subject matter expert and ask some questions at no charge, right? So there's some opportunities that are definitely there and exist, and how you can help reduce your costs. So I know that can really be a barrier for a lot of folks in reaching those goals, but it's definitely something that you can get through. What about if you've lost your motivation? Because that can happen too, right? I know, really trying to set yourself on that trajectory of success can be difficult. And I think in some ways, there's been a lot of people that have lost the motivation to take a shower, right? They've lost the motivation to get clothes on before 9 a.m. in the morning and not just your pajamas all day. And that's going on right now, right? So it can happen, and that can suck you away from the goals you're trying to attain. And I would really tell you, if you feel like you're just kind of spinning your wheels, really, really, really would encourage you to look at how you can start out your day successful. And I think there's a couple of ways to do that. And the first way is making your bed, right? And I know that sounds super silly, and there's probably some parents out there that just went, no way, I don't even make my bed, right? But we made our beds in the military for a lot of reasons. One, it created uniformity, so everything was looking nice and pleasing to the eye when you'd walk into the barracks or walk into a room. But what it did is it set you up for success, right? So I'm going to say the word pee, right? But before you pee, if you are making your bed, you've already created something successful in the day, right? Using the bathroom isn't the first successful step of the day, maybe for some, but not for all, right? But when you sit there and you can make your bed, you get set for the day, you've already accomplished something. Back in the 90s, I joined the Army, and one of our saying was, we do more before breakfast than most people do all day. And there's a lot of things behind that because it sets you up for success, right? So if you could take some opportunity, you feel like you've lost your motivation, when you get up in the morning, set your feet towards success. Start out by making your bed. Start out by, and maybe your SMART goal is, hey, for the next week, I'm going to be up by 9 a.m. every day and be showered and ready to go for the day. I'm going to put on some real clothes. I'm going to put myself together so I can have a successful day. And I think you're going to see that that's going to change, right? It's going to change how you feel about what you're going to do for the day, what you're going to do for the week. It's going to start to build up that moment of success because you've started that. So that can be one of those things. If you feel like you've lost your motivation, just simply starting by making your bed, right? Getting up and getting dressed, starting to break that cycle and set it back, right? But again, there's some other things that you can do. You can go back and identify the reasons that your goal is important to you, right? So we're writing it down. We're keeping our eye on the prize, as someone was saying. And as we do those things, we can really go back and reflect and sit back on our goal and go, yes, that's right. This is why I want to do this. This is why that goal is important to me. This is why I want to be successful in this area of my life. And that can really help kind of get that motivation back, right? And then I think it's important too that, sometimes people deal with depression. Seasonal depression is something we get a lot of here in Michigan, right? Where we just feel like it's so gloomy all the time. And it's okay if we need to reach out for professional help. I think it's really important to understand and have that conversation too, because there's nothing wrong with it. We need to hear that that's okay to say, hey, I need to talk to someone. I have to get this off of my chest. I got to try to figure this out in my brain and what's going on. So if you need that professional help, get it. And there's no shame in that, right? There's nobody that's going to look down upon you for getting that help that you need. And frankly, it's going to help you. It's going to help you be more of a successful person. When we want to work on problem solving, okay, so we have a problem in front of us. How are we going to get through it, right? So we want to write out the problem, right? Clearly define our problem and what is the challenge. And you can chart it out, whatever it needs to look like. But again, we want to be successful. We've established a SMART goal. It's specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, right? We've done all of these right things, but now we're not getting there. How are we going to get to that point? We want to write it out. We want to say, this is what's holding me back. I want to clearly define that for our problem solving aspects, right? The next thing we want to do is we want to come up with options. So write it out. Just think, man, how am I going to get through this? How am I going to solve the problem? Maybe you've got to reach out to one of those trusted friends. Maybe it's a family member. Maybe it's somebody else in your trail riding group, right? Whatever that may be, talk to them if you need it to try to figure out some ways that you can solve your problem. And then you got to pick the best option, right? See what works for you. And as I often say with a lot of things that I do, and I have the opportunity to speak to you, just if you could take 2 or 3 things out of each thing that you hear, a class that you attend, a webinar that you get to listen to, if you could take those two or three things that are told that work best for you and implement them, you're going to be successful, and it's going to be more valuable to you when you attain these things, right? Everything I say today, if you're able to implement all of it, outstanding. That'd be awesome, right? If you take 1 thing away or 2 things away, that's great too. And it's going to help you be a more successful person, right? If all you remember is SMART goals out of this whole thing today, SMART goals and horrible dad jokes, you're going to be good. All right. So you pick that best option. Then the next thing for problem solving is you want to make an action plan, right? Put your choices into action. How am I going to do this? If I've got something that's holding me back, I figure out what is the best solution and then make an action plan, right? For me in my sheep business, I raise American Suffolk sheep, purebreds, right? So when I have problems with genetics, I got to look at what are my options. What do I need to buy new ewes? Do I need to call ewes? Do I need to buy a new ram? Do I need to look out this way, right? And then I've got to go, okay, so out of all those things, what is the most realistic? How can I most have a change, a positive change in my flock? What decision do I have to make, right? So we want to make sure that we have an action plan and putting those choices or those things that we want to accomplish into action. And then the next thing is we want to try it, right? And then we want to make progress checks. I'm going to talk about progress checks in a few moments on how we can check on ourselves, but try it and realize that it might take a little bit of refinement, right? That what we thought would work didn't quite work, and we need to adjust it and go back at it again. Again, in the Army, right, we called a lot of our things that we did with refinement data. We put a howitzer in place so we could make it shoot miles and drop artillery shells, in the right place. But after every time we shot that, we'd have what we call refinement data, right? Every time we've done and we reached towards our goal of shooting that howitzer, we'd make small adjustments to the sighting, to how we had the gun laid, all those type of different things, just to refine it, right? To become more skilled and more precision. And that's the same thing when we go to problem solving. We have an action plan. We need to try it. If it didn't work, cool, go back to figuring out what are those things that are our best options and seeing what we can implement next. And then again, making it and then just refining it, keep going, keep working, not giving up and keep pushing on. So we've talked about, kind of what are those breakthroughs and those barriers that are holding us back, because those barriers really could become setbacks, right? And you need to understand that everyone's going to experience setbacks. We're all going to have it, right? The most successful people in history have had setbacks, and Google search them and read about their biographies and their autobiographies, and you can read that they've all had setbacks, and it's, what you do in those moments of setbacks is what sets you up for success, right? It's not the fact that you have them, it's about how you respond to those setbacks. And I think Albert Einstein said a really cool thing or quote, I guess you could say, right? It says, but in the middle of a difficulty lies opportunity, right? So in the middle of those setbacks, really there's a place and a moment for you to understand that you have the ability to find those opportunities and be successful. So how to handle your setbacks. Okay, so when you get a setback, what are you going to do? And the first thing is rethink your unhelpful thoughts. I know that sounds kind of funny to say out loud, but negative thoughts can be your worst enemy, right? It can be the thing that dooms you is your own mind, right? And we want to just be able to rethink those unhelpful thoughts. And don't fall for this all or nothing thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't even make it my goal last week. I didn't get my time in, so it's all for nothing. I'm just done. I'm just done with it. I'm never going to do it again, right? Well, of course, come on. Now that's not smart thinking. That's not smart goal setting, mind setting thinking. We want to make sure that we're not going down that road. So we want to make sure that we're not allowing our negative thoughts to become our worst enemies. Ask yourself what happened. What happened that set up that setback? Did you not ride more this week because your horse is at someone else's farm and you can't travel right now? Okay, well that's not that bad of a setback. That's just a temporary thing because of the circumstances we're in, right? Or did you not ride this week because you spent more time playing Fortnite or Call of Duty on mobile or whatever maybe it's spending too much time watching TikTok videos or making TikTok videos. And by the way, I'm going to try the new Jack Black TikTok video sometime this week, see if I can mock it up myself. If you haven't seen it, check it out. You'll find it quite comical. But anyway, right? So ask yourself, what happened? Somebody probably just like, no, they've already seen it, right? But ask yourself, right? What happened? Reflect on the situation. How did you get to that setback? And how can you avoid it moving forward? And again, maybe if it's some of this COVID-19 related stuff that's holding you back, realize it's just a moment. You got to do what we're being asked, making sure that we're following the guidelines that you're being asked in your community or in your state, and know it's going to pass. And then we're going to be right back into that pathway of success. Okay. So again, just making sure about how you can avoid it moving forward. Get back on track right away, as fast as you can. Plan how you're going to get there, right? Get back onto it. You just don't want to let it continue to build into that negative thinking, pushing it down the road, and if your goal is to take a shower every day by 9 for the next week and it's 9:30 and you didn't do it, go knock it out, go get it done, right? It's okay that it's not by 9. You want to get back on there, realize why you didn't do it. Maybe you stayed up too late, those type of things, right? But you can get right back on it and get back to your plan, okay? The next thing we want to do is if you're really struggling with your setbacks, is talk to someone supportive, right? And I think that's really important, that you got to have those people that you can talk to. And there's people that that are going to be receptive. There's people that are going to hold you back, right? And sometimes we don't see that right away. We go to people and we realize that maybe the advice they're giving to us isn't in our best interest. Maybe it's in their best interest. So be mindful of those situations, right? About who you can talk to, but make sure it's someone supportive. Go out there and talk to them, right? And commit to that renewed effort, right? Talk to them, say, hey, I had a setback. Man, I didn't do it because this, or this. What do I need to do to, what do you think I can do to help keep moving myself forward, okay? And then the last thing is focus on positive change, right? Again, just realize that setbacks are part of the process. You're going to experience it, and that's okay. It's, again, what do we do in that moment, right? Like Albert Einstein said, in the middle of a difficulty lies opportunity. And what are you going to do when you hit those moments, okay? Stress. I think it's really important to talk about stress. Apologize, my son's knocking dishes off in the kitchen, so I don't know if you heard that one or not. But if you did, my apologies. Stress may play a role, right, in your setback. Okay, so I think that's important. This moment that we're experiencing as a nation can be really stressful for a lot of people, most people, and that's okay. But we need to understand that, right? So we want to track our stress. And by tracking your stress, you're going to become more aware of the ways that you experience stress, right? So if we're not able to reach those SMART goals because of stress, track that stress. Figure it out. Hey, what were those trigger moments that prevented me from accomplishing my goal because of stress? Okay. The second step we want to do is identify the source of our stress. Knowing the source of your stress is critical, right, to dealing with it. So if you can figure out where that stress comes from, it's going to help you figure out how to manage it. Maybe it's somebody that's in your riding group, or that's at the barn or the facility where you house your horse at. And every time he and you are together, or she and you are together, it is just grinding, nothing solid. Maybe you just need to change your arrival time, right? See if you can switch it up. Come an hour later, come 2 hours before. So you don't have to constantly get into those moments where you're constantly grinding, right? Because that's stress. Then you're not performing, you're not reaching those goals that you want to be thinking about and trying to obtain, right? So practice mindfulness, right? Being mindful is really being fully aware of what's going on within you and around you at really any given moment, right? So the more you can be mindful of your situations, you're going to understand what parts of that stress are triggering you and stopping you from reaching those goals. Be physically active. It's one of the most effective stress management techniques that's out there, okay? It increases your endorphins, it improves your sleep, it raises self-esteem, right? And if you're feeling a lot of tension and stress, being physically active can really help with that muscle tension as well. Breathing in the moment, right? That's the fastest way that you can help deal with stress in the moment, right? Get some good deep breathing in, focus on your breathing, get yourself under control. In those stressful moments, that is one of the quickest thing you can do is just focus on your breathing and getting that under control. And then plan activities that make you feel good, right? If you're struggling to reach your goals, you're struggling to get there, plan some things that just make you feel good and get out and do them when you can. Again, it may be a little bit more limited in the short term right now with COVID-19, but if you've got some things out there that just really help you feel good and feel like a better person, get out there and do them, right? That's really going to help you get through that. So then how to move towards success, right? Make these micro SMART goals that work towards your bigger goal. Small change can make a big difference, okay? So maybe if your goal is to accomplish 3 more shows throughout the year, or place top 5 in 3 more shows than the remainder of the year, right? We can make some of these micro SMART goals that'll work towards our bigger goals. Maybe setting up practice times, right? We're going to practice hours a week for the next 3 months. We're going to practice, just spend, whatever that topic may be for you. Just want to reach it out, okay? Then we want to look at our progress check-ins, okay? Going back, we've got them written out. We've got our eyes on success. We want to have some progress check-ins, right? What success did you have? So we're going back and look. We got this goal set up over the last week. What success did I have towards this goal over the last week? If it was waking up, getting ready before 9 a.m. for the next 7 days in a row, was I successful 6 out of the 7 days, 4 out of the 7 days? See what success that you had. Then what challenges did you face? Why didn't you accomplish that goal? What held you back, right? So looking at the challenges that you faced. And then what did you do to overcome those challenges? Because when you really reflect back, you're going to see that you did face some adversity, some barriers, but you got through them, right? And maybe it wasn't all the way over. Maybe you just got through halfway or up the hill, but not down on the backside, right? But how did you overcome those? Because reflecting on that, writing those things out are really going to help you continue to move forward and attain those goals. And then what benefits did you get from making the change, right? So reflect. So see that you did, hey, I did it. I did get through some of those goals and I felt better. I loved how I got the small accolade from my riding instructor who said, hey, great job. I saw you change this, and this past week. And you can see those benefits and really how it helps you become more successful towards your goals. And then I think it's important to reward your success, right? Maybe go out and buy yourself something new. If you meet your goal, understand that you can go out and get something. Reward yourself. Let yourself experience those moments of success because it's going to make your desire build. Now, I'm not saying that every small success deserves a big reward, right? Because that's how it would be in my household, right? Well, I made my bed 3 days this week, so I should get a PlayStation. Well, no, that's not a realistic success, right? Or rewarding a realistic reward for that success. But maybe there's some things that you can do, right? Maybe you can go out and get a new outfit for riding or some new tack. Maybe it's just something simple as going out and having some ice cream because, man, I could go for some dairy store ice cream right now and I can't do any of it. So I look forward to that and being able to reward some of our success for getting through this moment with some big scoops of dairy store ice cream. And if you've never been to Michigan State Dairy Store, check it out if you get to campus. Maybe it's going on a hunting or fishing trip, right? If that's what helps you feel successful, if that's what helps, rather makes you feel good, and that's going to help build in more of those success, right? Know what rewards work for you. Because again, maybe I said hunting and fishing, and there's 10 of you that just went, oh my gosh, no way would I ever want to do such a thing to find that as being successful as a reward for success, right? And there's some of you that are like, man, I could be fishing for a week. That'd be awesome. So, again, knowing these things about how we can set ourselves up, give ourselves some rewards for attaining those SMART goals, right? So kind of as I'm wrapping up, I've got just, of course, one more joke to throw here before the end, right? But how does a horse from Kentucky greet another horse? Does anybody know? And we'll give it a second if you can put her in the chat or the Q&A session there. I don't know. Click on this.
We have a howdy.
Okay, nice.
Any other guesses?
All right.
And right along, Nick, you've been getting lots of great feedback and questions, and I've been able to answer most of them, but I've left a few up there for the end.
Okay.
So
great. Well, I was thinking that really, how does a horse from Kentucky greet another horse? With Southern hospitality.
Oh my word.
Yeah. Or at least
you have been getting some accolades for your dad jokes in the Q&A. So.
They are not copyrighted. Feel free to share, use at the dinner table, use wherever you see fit, right? But yeah, so I just wanted to add that in. But I just got a few summary points here. We'll answer any of those questions. And again, I really thankful that you stuck around with us today. And hopefully, you, like I said, just if you took one or two things, I really hope you could take it and run with it. And if anything, just remember what a SMART goal is, right? And being specific and having that goal being measurable and action oriented, right? Reachable and time oriented. Okay. So again, we talk about our SMART goals. Share your goals with your trusted friends, right? Have some accountability partners. Make sure that what things you're looking to accomplish, you got someone else that's going to walk alongside you, right? And help you out with those moments. It applies to all aspects of your life, right? Your SMART goal doesn't need to focus on horse related activities or 4-H related activities. Maybe it's just being how you can have a better impact on your community, right? On your school, in your home, right? So these goals apply to all aspects of our life. When we talk about breaking your barriers, right? We want to just know that you can make it happen. Know that there may be limitations that are there today, but if you can assess those limitations, you can make it happen. You can get through those barriers and help you reach those goals and be successful. When we talked about those setbacks to success, just make sure you're conducting your self-monitoring, right? Know that when you have those things, reflect back on those smaller achievable, those smaller weekly goals that work towards the bigger goal. Reflect back on that. What did you do to get towards being successful? And if you had some setbacks that week, no problem. Maybe the same goal that you had this past week needs to be your goal for next week. And realizing the barriers that you had to being successful, knocking those barriers down, and then rocking it out and becoming successful in the next week, right? So that self-monitoring aspect. And then reward your success along the way. Realize that, you know, you're putting in time, you're putting in effort, you're being successful, and sit back and give yourself some credit for that. Because I think sometimes we get so focused on the end goal that we forget about all the things that we've accomplished on the way, right? That
I don't know if it's my internet, but Nick is frozen right now. Is he frozen for anybody else?
wow, I did accomplish a lot. I must be. Oh, am I back yet?
You are back.
Okay. My connection. I guess if I'm going unstable, now is the time to go unstable. I'm on my summary slide.
Yeah, it's done really good so far.
Rural internet. I'm hanging out there with you, rural America. I get it. What was the last thing you heard, Taylor? I'm sorry. Oh, did I lose you again?
I'm not sure when it froze on you. You talked about self-monitoring and rewarding your success along the way.
Perfect. Well, we'll leave it there. That's great.
Okay.
Reward yourself, right? Reward yourself, being successful, know that you've been successful, and it's okay to reward yourself for those things, because journaling those things out, looking back, we're going to really see that you've been a lot more successful than maybe you feel like you haven't been, especially if you feel like you're missing your SMART goal. Okay. And then lastly, have fun. Have fun with what you're doing. I'm having fun, and you ain't going to stop me, right? You can't stop me. And this little lamb, not my lamb, but I love the picture, right? He's all about having fun in the moment. So have fun in the show rings, right? Have fun along your journey. And it, you know, it's just, I want, you know, people just to enjoy the journey that we're on, because this is it, right? And I think that if we could find one good thing that's coming out of this COVID-19 situation, it's try to find the pleasure in the things that maybe started out as fun, but then got washed over with all the other demands of life, right? So you have things that you enjoy doing, and then the busyness of school and sports and all the other different things that came into place that pulled you away or made those things less fun and enjoyable. So if you have the opportunity, just in this moment, just sit back and reflect on what the things are that you really enjoy, set some good SMART goals, make sure they're specific and they're measurable. They're action oriented, right? They're time based, and just enjoy those moments of life and those goals. So with that, I also have time for questions, and I love questions. Questions are my favorite. So what did we get not answered, Taylor, that I can help with?
Let me peek. Like I said, I did answer them. One person had a neat idea. Kathy shared actually with us that about eating the frog in the morning, kind of doing like the most difficult task at the beginning, and then you set yourself up for success as well. So that was kind of neat.
Yeah.
Oh, someone asked, are we going to have these videos for the rest of the year because school is done for Michigan kids? You know, I'm certainly considering continuing these on. And actually that reminds me, can I go ahead and share my screen, Nick?
Yeah, I'll stop the share here. I should be done. Am I clear?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. And let me find, I gotta move this over. We do have next week planned, so yay. Hopefully everybody can see this. It's not too oogly. So this is what we have planned for next week for these lunch and learn lectures. I'm not sure what's going to happen the following week, but I will keep you all updated on this. If you are really liking it and finding these useful, then I will do my darndest to continue them on. Just to give you an idea, on Monday, I'm going to be talking about judging reining. On Wednesday, Maria Rising and I are going to tackle how to buy a horse. So lots of tips and tricks in that area. And then on Friday, I'll be talking about getting you and your horse show ring ready. So please keep joining us. Now, if I can figure out how to get back to the Q&A feature. There we go. Alexa said, thank you. You can probably see this now, Nick. He answered live.
Oh.
Sophia must have answered one of your questions.
Okay.
Grace says I should keep going on with these. What do you use as a SMART goal? If you have a more specific question, holler at us, LT. I feel like Nick gave us lots of really good examples, but.
Yeah, and I think, for us in my home right now, it's really about, we kind of like grieved over the process of not having school and not seeing our friends or my coworkers and Taylor and Melissa and all my other coworkers and my friends.
Some days are harder than others too, and that's okay.
Oh, did I talk over you? I'm sorry.
No, you didn't. I was just saying, like, and there's going to be good days and bad days, and experience those together.
Yeah. So we've really kind of reset our goals in our home, right? Our SMART goals, and we don't always call them SMART goals, but it's the concept of when my wife and I are talking about things, we're using that concept, right? So don't think that Nick runs around every day talking about SMART goals. We don't call them SMART goals. We just set goals that are those, but it's really becoming more actionable in our day's actions, right? So how we can set up our mornings to be more successful, because we had this grieving process where we all kind of just like laid around and didn't do much until 10 o'clock in the day, right? And kind of just trying to figure out the heaviness of what we were experiencing, but really not trying to figure out, hey, we're going to get up by this time. We're going to spend some time reading before we turn on the TV, what those things might look like. So, and I think, again, the question I see, right, is how often we should set these goals. You know, all the time, right? Weekly. If you've got big things that you're accomplishing over a year or a show season, you've got those, and then really figuring out how do you break it back and step into those things weekly and reflecting on that. And maybe just your first goal is only a week long, and you get through it, you reflect on it, what went right, how I can do it better, and what should my next goal be, right? And I think, again, journaling